Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this my motion seeks to protect local manufacturers in the procurement processes in Nigeria, in this case, on the ongoing national mass metering program of the federal government. Urgent need to protect local meter manufacturers in the ongoing national mass metering program of the federal government. The Senate notes that the duty of industry procurement regulators in every developing economy, first and foremost, is to protect its local manufacturers and would only try to augment through the importation of goods and services where there is a clear-cut gap between local production and consumption. The Senate also notes that the members of the Association of Meter Manufacturers of Nigeria, AMON, are capable of producing world-standard smart meters. Hence, the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, and the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NEC, under Phase 1 of the mass metering program of the federal government, issued the association, after a competitive bidding process, a letter of no objection to award 4 million meters in 2022. Aware that the Central Bank of Nigeria also in 2020 undertook to fund the National Mass Metering Program, Phase 1, but after 8 months of awards to local manufacturers, withdrew funding, which affected the workability of the program. Also aware, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, that the World Bank has approved a loan of $155 million for the National Mass Metering Program, worried that the ongoing World Bank-funded NMMP, that's the National Mass Metering Program Phase 2, seeks to promote foreign companies' participation against competent and pre-qualified local meter manufacturers will ultimately result in the loss of jobs and revenue. A deliberate policy to prioritize local manufacturing will catalyze job creation and economic growth. Informed that the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, on behalf of the World Bank, closed bidding advertisement on July 11, 2023, and further extended it to July 25th, 2023, that's next week, Tuesday, for the supply and installation of 1.2 million smart meters to the 11 distribution companies in Nigeria. Cognizant that the bidding criteria put in place, which can only be satisfied by foreign companies, have totally marginalized and eliminated the participation of 35 local competent meter manufacturers. Also cognizant that the current bidding criteria do not only negate some policy initiatives that will facilitate the establishment of a local metering industrial base with its impact in terms of generating employment opportunities for Nigerians, it also enables loss of revenue to the nation by granting these foreign companies additional concession of a concession duty waiver of 45%. Alarmed that if the bidding process continues as it is, the outcome would be disastrous to members of the Association of Meter Manufacturers of Nigeria who have invested billions of naira in the sector and currently employs 10,000 workers directly and more than 30,000 workers indirectly. Concerned that if the federal government and other stakeholders do not make urgent intervention, and indeed this Senate, the ongoing World Bank-funded National Mass Metering Program Phase 2 would ultimately encourage foreign company participation, loss of jobs and funds to the detriment of local manufacturers and causing economic retrogression. Accordingly, the Senate resolves to 1, urge the federal government to immediately suspend the Transmission Company of Nigeria TCN tender for World Bank-funded National Mass Metering Program Phase 2 in order to undertake comprehensive review of the procurement criteria to prioritize local manufacturing and assembling in line with local content and backward integration policy that catalyzes local capacity building, employment generation, and economic growth for Nigeria. 2, also urge the Transmission Company of Nigeria and other stakeholders to negotiate and engage the African Export-Import Bank, AFEXIM, and the African Development Bank, AFDB, for alternative loan if World Bank loan conditions do not favor local economic growth at this critical time of massive unemployment and devaluation of Naira.
Distinguished colleagues, I am Issa Jibrin, representing the very good people of Kogi East. Your Excellency, thank you very much for accepting my apology in that regard. Having said that, I may have to start all over again, that this motion brings to the fore the issue of import substitution strategy in Nigeria. We need to encourage our local manufacturers through various ways, in particular, favorable tax regime. Having said that, sir, the issue at stake here is very, very critical, and we need to be very careful. The loan to be provided to this Transmission Company of Nigeria is from the World Bank. The World Bank has its own terms and conditions for disbursements of any loan. And we need to be careful here for that. Whatever, I mean, the World Bank, okay, various developing countries are assessing loans from the World Bank almost on a daily basis, and they, in fact, queue up. The developing countries queue up because they feel that the loan from the World Bank has two major advantages. One, in terms of interest rate, is relatively low. Two, in terms of the tenor is sufficiently long for various forms of developmental projects. So if we have to take the World Bank loan for any purpose, we must go by the terms and conditions of the World Bank. And that is what is happening here. Okay, the World Bank has set its criteria for the procurement requirement for the purpose of producing this meter. And what is said in the motion here is that the Nigerian manufacturers cannot meet the requirements. Okay, they must brush up and meet those requirements. Otherwise, World Bank will not give you that money. And there are many countries of the world, developing countries in particular, queuing up to take that money, because, like I said, World Bank loan is relatively cheap. World Bank loan is relatively longer in terms of tenor. Okay, so what I'm saying in essence is that we are not going to discontinue the use of that loan. We must go ahead and take that loan. We must go ahead and utilize that loan to produce the meters that
just clarification. Are you in support of the motion or against the motion? The distinguished Senator Issa Jibrin, we just want to be guided. Are you in support of this motion or against the motion?
Sorry, sir. I am in support of the motion. But I'm trying to provide clarification because he is saying here in the motion that we may have to discontinue with the use of the World Bank loan.
So if the motion says that we should urge nuance or suspension of the World Bank loans, and you second the motion, so why are you now saying that the World Bank loan should continue? Please use your mic. Use your mic.
We cannot afford to lose this money. That's what I'm saying. So we must go by the terms and conditions of the loan. But then, Mr. President, I want to go further by saying that this is going to be a stopgap measure. Okay, going forward, as a medium to long-term measure, we now have to look for alternative loans, okay, that Nigerians can conveniently use. That is what I am saying.
Thank you. So is there anybody that will be able to second this motion? Because, yes, Senator Salim.
I stand to support this motion, and the content of the motion also goes with my ideals, because we are trying to encourage local content in this country. And then when the World Bank gives us facilities, they always want us to go to original equipment manufacturers, OEMs. We have local OEMs, so how do we encourage them in order for them to be able to meet all the international standards that the World Bank usually and the international financiers always give as conditions? Until when we empower our own local ones, we have for a very long time have manufacturers of meter in Nigeria. There was one in Zaria, which I know very well. Today they are not functioning. They used to employ over 1,000 people working. They work 24 hours round the clock. Today, they are no more. And we are encouraging where we take loan from World Bank. When the money comes, we take it to China and they empower them. So I think there is no better time that this motion will work than now, when the power sector is working on how to see that every household has a meter. So you said? Protect me, Chairman. Protect me, Chairman. So I think even the World Bank should encourage us to saying that the local manufacturers should be enhanced, should be supported, so that we make our own local industries stronger. And then other African countries can say, oh, there's an OEM in Nigeria that we can extend these supplies to.
So in other words, you support the motion? I say, after supporting the motion, you still want the World Bank loan to continue? Use your mic. Use your mic. It's your own. Oh.
I want the World Bank loans to continue, but the criteria at which they put for Nigeria, some of the criteria must be amended, because if we have local OEMs, then if that's the case, there are certain sectors that we don't need to take the loan. There are certain, excuse me, there are certain sectors we don't need to take the loan, because meter is not for free. It's not for free. So if meter is not for free, then if we are going to use our own money to produce meters locally, why not?
Thank you, Senator Kingibe.